Hey, what if I told you that this little, scarred, imperfect watermelon could teach you the secret to living a stronger, more connected, and more authentic life? Sounds wild, right? But trust me, there's a powerful lesson here, and it's something we all need to hear. Today I'm sharing the vulnerability code, the way of the watermelon. It's about how letting go of perfection, showing your scars, and embracing your true self can change your life and the lives of the people you love. I'll tell you my story about this melon, break down what vulnerability really means, and give you 3 incredible strengths that only come from being real. If you've ever felt disconnected, overwhelmed, or like you have to keep up a shiny facade to be accepted, this is for you. Because being vulnerable isn't a weakness, it's your greatest strength. And by the end of this, you'll see exactly how to unlock that strength for yourself. Let's be honest, vulnerability isn't exactly a popular thing. It's hard, isn't it? We're taught to avoid it, to cover up, to look polished, perfect, and put together at all times. Here's why. Vulnerability literally means to be open to being wounded. It means letting people in close enough to see the real us, our fears, flaws, and hopes, and trusting them not to hurt us. And let's face it, that's scary. Because if we've been hurt before by people, circumstances, disappointment, or the way life turned out in general, our natural instinct is to protect ourselves, to keep people at arm's length. But let's be real. Why in the world would anyone want to be vulnerable? Why would you willingly open yourself up to the risk of being wounded? Because without vulnerability, we miss out on the best parts of life. Connection, growth, love. Without it, we stay locked behind a shiny shell, alone and unseen. Vulnerability is what lets us experience the depth and beauty of relationships, of purpose, of life itself. And that's worth the risk. Have you ever bitten into a beautifully ripe-looking watermelon, only to find it tasteless and disappointing? Well, that's exactly what happened to me one day. It was the day before what should have been the most blissful watermelon tasting in history. A coworker of mine, one of those people who knows how to organize and hype everyone up, had coordinated everything perfectly. Knives, bowls, utensils, it was all ready. The only thing left to do? Wait. Why? Because we wanted to deep refrigerate that melon, to get it ice cold, just the way a watermelon is supposed to be. The next morning, as I got ready for work, all I could think about was that melon. Hours passed, and when it was finally time to eat, we laid that big, bright, shiny, green melon on the table with a deep thud. The excitement was palpable. My hands trembled as someone else made the first cut. It was so perfect, I didn't even want to ruin its skin. And when the knife pierced through the thick flesh, the aroma hit us. I thought, this is going to be everything I dreamed of. I grabbed my slice, took the first bite, and waited. And waited. But there was nothing. No flavor. No sweetness. Apparently, when they grew this watermelon, they were heavy on the water and light on the melon. Every bite reminded me of what could have been. I later learned that shiny melons like this one are practically guaranteed to disappoint. They look beautiful, but they're often watery and tasteless. The best melons, The sweetest ones are the small, round, ugly ones. They look like they've been through some things. Their skin is dull, covered in scars, and somewhere there's a big yellow or orange spot where they rested and ripened. That's the one you want. And isn't that just like life? The things that look perfect on the outside aren't always what they seem. The sweetness comes from the scars, the imperfections, and the process. Here's the amazing thing about those scars. They're not flaws. They're signs of what made the watermelon sweet. The scars, called sugar spots, are left by bees as they pollinate. The more scars, the more sweetness inside. You'll get that later. Like the watermelon, our scars tell a story of where we've been. They show the struggles we faced, the resilience we've built, and the growth that's made us who we are. And just like the watermelon, the sweetness of life is found in the parts of us that have been through something. Let me share with you the power, what I call the 3 authentic strengths of vulnerability. Number 1 is authentic living. When you're vulnerable, you stop pretending to be that shiny, perfect melon. You embrace who you really are, scars and all. And that's where true freedom begins. When you can live authentically without fear of judgment. But here's the thing. A lot of the burnout, stress, and negative feelings we experience in life don't come from doing too much. They come from being someone we're not. When we spend our energy trying to keep up appearances, hide our struggles, or live up to someone else's expectations, it drains us. We end up feeling disconnected from ourselves and from the life we're living. That disconnection, that's where the frustration, overwhelm, and exhaustion come from. Living authentically, being vulnerable enough to show up as your true self, isn't just freeing, it's healing. It's what lets us stop chasing perfection and start embracing purpose. And when we do that, we stop living in survival mode. Instead, we thrive because we're finally living a life that feels real, aligned, and ours. Number 2 is authentic connection. Vulnerability opens the door for real relationships. When we show up as our true selves, we give others permission to do the same. But let's dig deeper, because there's something powerful here. When we hide behind the big, shiny version of ourselves, when we focus on luster and perfection, we end up giving people something that's, well, watered down. It's like that first watermelon. Looks great on the outside, but inside there's no depth, no flavor, nothing to nourish or connect with. And let's be honest, nobody needs the tastelessness of a diluted experience. What people actually need, the sweetness they're craving, comes from the real you. The you without the grandiose appearances, the polished fanfare, or the shiny perfection. They need the parts of you that are scarred, imperfect, and raw, because that's where your story lives. That's where your heart lives. And that's where they'll find shelter in the midst of their own personal storms. And number 3 is authentic awareness. Vulnerability isn't just about connecting with others. It's also about connecting with yourself. Being vulnerable and in touch with your hurts, pains, and disappointments connects you with your heart. When you allow yourself to truly feel, to sit with your emotions instead of burying them, you open the door to self-awareness. The more in tune you are with your emotions, the more they speak. They tell you what's really going on inside, what needs attention, and what you truly value. Your pain becomes a guide, pointing you toward healing and growth. And here's the amazing thing. The more you understand your pain, the more you open yourself up to experiencing its opposite, joy. Think about it. When you block out pain, you also block out joy. When you numb yourself to hurt, you numb yourself to happiness. Vulnerability is the key to breaking that cycle. It allows you to process what's holding you back, to release it, and to make space for the good things. Peace, purpose, love, and joy. And here's where it gets empowering. When you're vulnerable enough to acknowledge your emotions, they stop controlling you. You stop reacting to life on autopilot, driven by feelings you don't understand. Instead, you start living with intention, guided by clarity and purpose. Vulnerability becomes your greatest strength because it gives you the power to know yourself, trust yourself, and move forward with confidence. What I'm asking you to do may be one of the hardest things you do in your life. I'm asking you to give people a chance. Give life a chance. Give yourself a chance. Listen, there's a good chance you will end up hurt and reminding yourself why you gave up trusting in the first place. But here's the deal. There's a greater chance that if you don't learn to overcome your fear, learn to embrace your strength, learn to put it all on the line, that one day you'll wake up and wonder, what if? What if I didn't let fear overtake me? What if I was unashamed of who God created me to be? What if I quit playing around with my potential because I could potentially get hurt? Here's what I can promise you. When you learn to open up to the right people, your life will change, and so will theirs. All because you had the courage to be vulnerable. Let me tell you something close to my heart about vulnerability in my relationships. With God, it means being open and honest about my struggles, even though He already knows everything about me. Vulnerability with Him is about trust. It's about building a deeper connection by choosing to let Him in on what's already in my heart. And with my wife, let me tell you, she usually already knows what's going on with me anyway. Vulnerability with her isn't just about sharing or unloading. It's about creating trust, honesty, and connection. It's about being fully me, without the facade, and knowing that it strengthens our bond every time. This isn't just about sharing our struggles. It's about the trust and connection that grows when we live authentically, when we show up as our true selves. Vulnerability can feel scary, but it's the key to the sweetness inside. Just like that scarred watermelon, our real strength is in the parts of us that are real, raw, and true. Vulnerability isn't just the ability to share, it's the ability to trust, connect, and grow. Because this is where the magic is. Smile. Let's keep growing together. If this applies to you and you are ready to grow this year more than ever before, subscribe and join me on this journey. Until next time, I stay committed to bringing out the best in you so you can bring your best to the world. I'll see you soon.